And I basically went in and said, Yannick, I quit. And I'm out in 3 months. And Yannick was like, but you can't quit because it's your company. And at that moment, I was really deep into Penneo. All my time was going into that. The only way I could get out of it was to basically quit it. I think my brain works like it's always trying to, find better ways of improving things. When I'm in a project myself and trying to do something and build something, it eats up all of my time and it eats up all of my thinking, right? Maybe we could also do this and maybe that would be a good project as well. So that's how my brain works. So that was, the only thing I talked about, I think, at home. I think my wife was going crazy at some point. She don't want to hear about accounting companies signing documents, right?
No.
And it's not she don't care about my project, but stop talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to Forbes Summerland and don't bring your phone, kind of. The energy that you put into focusing on, the client or your team, you need to put that time into home as well.
Real, raw, and honest stories from founders who are in it and going for it. With your hosts, Mick and Trav. This is the Growing For It podcast. Welcome back to another episode. We're here with Jakob Neua today, serial entrepreneur, founder from the NASDAQ-listed Penneo, as well as Estaldo today, which you can see from the awesome branded t-shirt. Jakob, you've also appeared on Lion's Den, which for those of you who don't know is the Danish version of Shark Tank. We have a really cool episode today. Welcome to the podcast, Jakob.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And maybe an awesome way to kick off could be if you just give us some bullet points of yourself and let us know, who is Jakob?
Well, in short, I think I would describe myself as trying to be the best dad I can.
I love that.
At first most. But in professional life, all my life I've tried to figure out how to have fun when I'm at work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that most people live their lives, trying to just get by.
Yeah.
Which means that you forget about living your life. So I've tried to, go into things where I don't need to have a hobby because my hobby is kind of what I'm doing. And about me, in short, bullet points, that was what you were asking. I'm 43 years old. I've been doing tech startups for 20 years. I dropped out of every school that I could. I tried a couple of times, but it didn't really work out.
Classic entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I live in Aalborg. I have 2 kids and a wife. And is that enough?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. And man, that actually really hit me in the chest. We haven't had that happen before where when we say, tell us about yourself, you're on this podcast about entrepreneurship, business, things like that. And the first thing you say is who I am as a good dad is what I try to be first.
Yeah.
And then at work, and then with my job, I try to have fun at work.
Yeah.
That was actually quite inspiring for me to hear that straight off.
Yeah, I also wrote it down, like the priority number 1 being the greatest dad.
Yeah. I'm also trying to be a good husband.
Yeah.
But I think time flies by, right?
Yeah.
And time is short. And whenever I look at my kids, it's kind of like they grow insanely fast.
Yeah.
And yesterday they were this small and now they're, living their own lives almost.
Yeah.
My daughter is 14 years old and it feels like that she was just like 4 yesterday. So I think trying to be there and being there for them is important. And I'm not saying that I don't fail in that, but that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm just curious, now that you just say it like that, can you remember a moment when you were like, damn, I really need to like prioritize this as number 1 because the time just goes?
Yeah, when we were building Penneo, I actually quit the company in 2017. I had my son, and he was at that point he was 3 years old, and it just felt like he was just born. So I went into the CEO we hired in Penneo, Yannick, great guy, and I basically went in and said, Yannick, I quit, and I'm out in 3 months. And I think that I've, the stuff that I have, I think I handed it off really well. I think the people can run it and the company can run, and my co-founders were really great people as well. So I went into the CEO and quit. And Yannick was like, but you can't quit because it's your company. And yeah, but I'm quitting and I'm out in 3 months.
Wow.
And he was like, but what are you going to do? I don't know, but I'm going to be here. I'll try to be present. So I actually quit because of that. Yeah.
That must have been a tough moment.
It was, but it was a decision that I'm happy that I took, because I took kind of 3 years where I was doing work that wasn't demanding on my time, which made me a lot more present those 3 years. Yeah, three really, really good years.
I'm sure you have not regretted that for a moment.
No, I haven't regretted that, not at all.
Wow.
Was there like a single point around that time that just made you like, I quit now? Like, do you remember, is there a moment where you just think to yourself, I'm going to go in and quit now? Or was it like a build up?
Well, I think it's always a build up when you quit stuff, but I've always tried to look at things as, if it's not fun, then you should quit it.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people could learn something from that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people go to work and they really hate it. They just look forward to the weekend.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that. I liked Penneo. I liked working there and all of that. But I was kind of I started failing at home because I was so into Penneo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the moment was around his birthday when he turned 3. Where it's like, shit, he's always 3. Now he's already 3 years old.
Yeah.
And it felt like he was just born. And at that moment I was really deep into Penneo. All my time was going into that, and the only way I could get out of it was to basically quit it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think his birthday was the moment. I also have a daughter, but she was also suffering from this, right? Because at this moment, Penneo was scaling into Denmark and Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in Aalborg. Our headquarters was ended up in Copenhagen. So I was flying to Copenhagen and spending 2-3 days there. And sometimes, I had meetings in a whole day and was sleeping somewhere in Jutland. And then going back, and it was just a mess about all the time. So when I hit his birthday, that was the moment. Yeah.
Was it also, are you also one of the entrepreneurs who have a hard time kind of decoupling when you get home, because your brain is always solving problems? And was that one of the also reasons to like kind of say clean slate,
yeah.
so to say?
Yeah. I tend to have, I think my brain works, I found out it works different than a lot of people apparently, or I've been told. But I think my brain works like it's always trying to find better ways of improving things.
Yeah.
So that's when I look at stuff, I'm like, maybe someone should improve that. And when I'm in a project myself and trying to do something and build something, it eats up all of my time, and it eats up all of my thinking, right? Besides all the other stuff that maybe we could also do this, and maybe that would be a good project as well. So that's how my brain works. So when I was deep in Penneo, that was the only thing I talked about. I think at home, I think my wife was going crazy at that point. She don't want to hear about accounting companies signing documents, right?
No.
And it's the most boring thing in the world, right? It's people signing documents and sending it to this guy and then this guy, and she can sign it and she can approve it, and my wife was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not she don't care about my project, but it's stop talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to Forbes Summerland and don't bring your phone, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. No talking about accounting in the water park.
Yes, exactly.
But that's so relatable, actually, because like as entrepreneurs ourselves, you're so passionate about what you do, even if from the outside it can look boring.
Yeah.
And having a great meeting, having a great interaction with a customer,
Yeah.
signing a new deal, even though it can be dreadfully boring sometimes.
Yeah.
When you get home, it's like you want to talk about what you're most passionate about, what you're most pumped with the person that you love.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is just, they're like, sure, but like, we also have a life outside of that we would like to discuss and things like that. So it's really relatable what you're saying there as well.
I think my wife, who is really, really smart, she's working within psychology, and she sometimes tells me, the energy that you put into focusing on the client or your team, or making sure that the team is okay and they are happy, and you need to put that time into home as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to forget about that. Because it's easy to know that you want to have your team happy, and you have an employee who's, maybe they are struggling or something, and then you forget about that the life at home is as important. So having her reminding me about that's important.
Why do you think that us entrepreneurs, we tend to forget that? Is it because we run out of energy? So when we get home, we're actually exhausted from all the focus we have on different people and all the moving parts? Or is it just, what do you think it could be?
That's a good question.
I think, to be honest, I think that it depends on what relationships that you're in. My wife has always known that because I've been doing this for my entire life, right?
Yeah.
So she knows how I am and how everything is. But I think that I rely so much on her having that in control that sometimes I forget that I'm also, important to be part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason for me. Then the energy, of course, there's you spend a lot of energy when you're at work, trying to get every ends to meet, right? Especially if you're in a company that's burning cash and you just see the bank account just going down down and down, and you're like, fuck, that's yeah, right. And you're trying to calculate how many months do we have left, and so there's a lot of energy going to that. And I think I don't really like people who know all the diagnosis that is going on around, but I think that my brain works kind of like some ADD shit, because I just hyper focus on something, and that takes a lot of energy. So when you get home and then new demands are coming, that's just hard because you just got home, you want to relax, right?
Yeah.
How do you actually cope with that so you can bring a good amount of energy at home too, at least most of the time, because of course nobody's perfect. But do you have anything that works really good for you that kind of gives you a quick recharge or makes it a little bit more sustainable?
No, I think that's on my wife. That part is on my wife.
Okay.
Because
sounds like a good woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think having someone that supports you, so that you don't have to do all the things at home that you might have. Maybe you should do it, but having someone understanding that your brain is just burnt when you get home.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything particular. As I said before, I don't have a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't play sports. I don't watch football. I don't. When I get home, I don't even watch TV a lot. So I think that when I get home, I try to be there, right?
Yeah.
And I fail a lot of times, but that's what people do, I think.
And lots of black coffee at work.
Yes.
Powered by the good stuff.
Yes.
I'm curious, Jakob, because you've been doing entrepreneurship for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Have you've started a lot of companies?
Mm-hmm.
Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Have you always known that?
No, I
take us back to the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So the beginning. I think I've always been the student in school that was asking questions about why do I have to learn this?
Yeah.
That's been my question in everything. So when we were in the math teacher, he was trying to teach us something. I'll be like, okay, so calculating how much water we can have in this thing, what should I use that for? And he was like, you have to. That's just part of the, going to school.
Yeah.
And that's been my whole, my brain kind of works like that. If I can't really use it for anything, then I tend to not be interested. I started working pretty early. My first job was at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
I was the youngest. At that moment, I was the youngest person working at McDonald's in Denmark.
Okay.
Because I was.
Congratulations.
I think I was 13 or 14. And I was only allowed to sweep the trays. That because I wasn't old enough. But they took me in. Maybe, I don't know. They liked me. And I worked there for 5 years. And the interesting part about McDonald's, and I think it started here at some point, that was seeing the whole part about building a system. So having a system and a process where you could take anyone from the street and put them in and make them work in the system. I found that really interesting. And when I was 18, two of my friends, Nikolai Højer and Christian, they and Dennis as well, they started an online magazine. So at that point, that wasn't the years 2000, and at that point, building a website that was hard.
Yeah.
But Christian, he was doing some development stuff, and he could build a website and some database. And Nikolai got home. He was studying in the US, and he came home and said, "Hey guys, there's something new. You can do this online magazines instead of printed magazines. So maybe we could do this guys magazine, about cars and girls and gadgets and drinks and stuff like that."
Which was an insane idea at that point.
That wasn't
online magazine.
Yeah. That was insane at that point. Doing that, I some of the newspapers wasn't even online at that point, I think. But and we were like, an online magazine, but so we should write ourselves, And Nikolai was like, yeah, because the whole idea is that everybody can sit down and write shit. You don't have to be a journalist, right? And so we just started this online magazine and started that would be blogging today, right? We just started blogging about stuff. We blogged about movies, did movie reviews, and that kind of escalated because a lot of guys came into the magazine, and I think at one point we had 50,000 users coming in every day, logging into the system. Kind of like we kind of created like a Reddit board.
Yeah.
So people were discussing, kind of a discussion board for guys.
Yeah.
And we did that for a couple of years. I think we were at top 50, top 75 most visited sites at that point in Denmark.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. How old were you there?
I was 18.
18?
18, 19, 20, around that, right? So we ran that for until 2007, more or less. But the magazine was we could rent cars or we could loan cars. So when a new car came out, kind of a Ford Mustang or whatever, they would loan it for us for a month. We could cruise around in that.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, being 18, right?
Yeah, I was going to say great time in your life for that type of thing for sure.
And then we came up with an idea that we could do reviews of clubs, discotheques. So we were doing club reviews where we had a photographer team going around and taking photos, mainly of all the girls, right? Posted it online and handing out these cards so everybody could go in and watch the photos afterwards. Because at that point, being online at a website and a bigger website, that was insane for people because they, you weren't online, right? Facebook came in 2007 or something.
Yeah, that's true.
So getting online at that point was just insane. So whenever we did a review, we would just have a lot of new users, and then so we were doing the global. The company was called Connery.dk, like Sean Connery, because he was the coolest guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we were doing the globalization trip of Connery, we called it, which basically meant that we reviewed all of the clubs in Denmark, all the big clubs. So we were going to all the cities and reviewing. And when we came to a city, we would have free, they would let us in for free.
Yeah.
And we would have free drinks, and we would have, a part in the club just for us. Yeah, that was insane.
Living that VIP life.
Yeah,
it sounds like an amazing life in your teens.
In the teens, that was insane.
How many of these business ideas in this age was it because you were like, this is going to be a good business, and how much of it was like, it'd be cool to do for free, like get cool cars, get free access to clubs, like.
Yeah, well, that is basically the business idea, right? If we do this, then we can probably get free drinks, we can meet girls, we can drive cool cars, and we can get rich, right? We just the last part was hard because none of us were actually we didn't know that we were running a business. I think we needed an adult at that point who could come in and tell us, hey guys, you're actually making a lot of money on this, and don't just spend it on drinks and partying, and that, because that was what we were doing. Mm-hmm. But in 2007, then Facebook came, and our users were still logging in, but instead of spending all day discussing and writing stuff in our discussion board, and they came in, logged in, saw that nothing new was in there because everybody was on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so it just went down like, and the money coming in also went down. So at that point we were like, okay, shit, what are we gonna do here? And we were also building some websites for other people, and we were doing some consultancy. So we went full time on building websites.
Okay.
For other people in a company called Just Works, and I hated that. That was the worst. That was the worst thing for someone like me, because working. It's not that I don't like clients, but the problem is that a lot of clients is gonna hire you and think that you're kind of a hammer to the nail, right?
Yeah.
And so you came and we spent a week on creating some cool website, and then they would come and maybe the button could be round instead of square, and maybe it could be yellow and instead of green, and we would move it around, and in the end they would come and say, yeah, it was better like it was before, right? And they didn't want to pay for the extra time that we spent on changing it, because that was it wasn't fun. And we tried starting with working with big clients.
Yeah.
So we created a radio station from Estaldo, actually.
Okay.
And we were doing a lot of big clients, TDC, and But the problem was always that trying to find hours to pay our team, and find more hours to pay the team, and find that was hard. So we tried to jump on a wave of people who were selling websites on subscription to smaller clients, because then you could sell a website for like 5, 7, 8, 10,000, and then you would get 500-600 krona every month or something like that, 300, which was then basically software as a service, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like that idea much better, but the client there, they were worse.
Okay.
Yeah, because if and nothing wrong with that, but they just like their company more because they own the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a carpenter and you want to have a website, you have your own opinions on that website, but you're only paying 10,000 for the website. So we don't have a lot of time to do it, but you want a perfect website that should have cost like 100,000, right?
Yeah. And I suppose if it's like recurring, then they think they're still paying you all the time. So,
exactly.
So you should keep working all the time.
Yeah. So the business idea was okay, because we knew what was coming in every month, but working with it was just driving me insane. So I started looking at other things. I thought, okay, maybe we can maybe we can build something for ourselves, right? Maybe we can build, we can do some website thing or whatever. And you just stop me on this, right?
I'm just curious real quick. I want to just pause it because I want you to continue from right there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
But it's just because in the beginning you said, if something stops being fun, then you should quit it or move on.
Yes.
Has that sort of been the principle throughout this, where you guys kind of looked at each other as founders and you're like, you know what? Like, this isn't fun. Like, we don't want to spend our life doing this. Or was it because the business dipped, or like why did you pivot each time to move on?
Well, I think it's that's basically a me thing, because I think Anders, who was my partner on these projects. He's not a kind of type who just he don't like change. Not as much as I do.
They'll just plow through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's me. If you look at the schools I've been in.
Yeah.
So I started at the gymnasium in I don't know which year it was, and I was there in 6 months.
Yeah. Because
that was not fun.
Which is kind of like high school for non-Danes.
Yeah, that's probably something like high school. Yeah. And then I started at business school instead, because I said, hey, maybe business school is better. And we were running Connery at this point as well on the side, not making money at that point. And I was there for 1 year, and I quit just before the first year was. No, I was there for 1 year, and then I started the second year, and then I quit. And then I tried again and took half a second year, and then I quit. So it's not I didn't try, but it's I tend to come to a point where if it's not fun, if I don't feel that I'm making an impact on myself or on what I'm doing, then I don't want to be there. And in Estaldo, I'm making a huge impact at the moment, right? But I'm not sure that I should be the CEO forever.
Sure.
That depends on how I grow as well, right? Yeah.
I think that what you just touched upon there is you hear a lot about, winners never quit, quitters never win. But there are actually times where it's good to quit.
Yeah.
And as I hear you, it's not because that it gets tough or something, but it's actually different elements that you've scheduled inside your head in a certain order, where if these gets checked off, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important lesson for people, to not just, just read all this, never give up, because there are times where you should actually quit.
Yeah.
Not that it's giving up, but you're quitting for the better of yourself, your health, your wealth, and all your relationships.
So true.
And I think that's important to as a takeaway from that.
Yeah. I also think that if you're doing a project, you can believe in a project, and if you see it failing and failing and failing and failing, sometimes I actually think it's better to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people who spend years on working on projects that never become anything. So it kind of gets to here, and then it stops, right?
Yeah.
And they're not having fun about it anymore, because now it's just that's where they go. That's where they get their paycheck. and they can't move it, but they really would like to move it, but they don't know how to move it. And I think then it's better, to quit it.
Yeah.
Or sell it, or put someone else in to run it if you can find someone, right?
Yeah.
How much of that for you is analysis, numbers? We're trying to move the needle, but we can't move the needle. And how much of that is gut feeling, intuition, kind of just a sense of self, like, I know it's time now?
I think I work a lot of guts on gut feelings. But I also look at numbers. But I don't think that you can put it up like that. I think there's, if you're trying to run let's say a software as a service startup that should scale out into the world, and you're in year 10 and you're still 5 people, and it doesn't seem like that it's ever going to move anywhere, and you're not having fun with it, then I think that you should quit.
Yeah.
If you are running a gardening service and you would like to be 50 people, but after 10 years you're only 2, and you think it's really hard, I think maybe you should quit.
Yeah.
But if you're running a gardening service and you're 2 people and you don't have a dream about being 50 and you're having fun with it, then stay there.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lot about the fun part. As long as it's fun, as long as you like doing it, then, you can stay there. But having a corporate job, and if you're having fun with it, why not, stick with it?
Yeah.
But I just tend to see a lot of people who have corporate jobs or any jobs anywhere, and when you talk with them, they hate their boss, and they hate their clients, and they hate everything, right? So why go there?
Yeah.
Then you go there and you hate being there. You do your job shitty, and you're miserable. Find something else to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too big of a part of your life to spend being miserable.
Yeah, because it's not only the time when you're there, it's also the time, after job. Because then after the job, then you're, angry with the job.
Yeah.
And then the only thing you look forward to is the weekend or your holiday, right?
Yeah. And it was a little bit like you talked about before, is if you come home and you talk to your spouse, like Travis said, and you have a negative conversation because now you're talking about your shitty boss, or fuck, the clients did this today and that really pissed me off. And, if you drag that energy home with you, then it is just as you say there, it's not just those 8 hours or 9 hours or how much you're working. It actually extends into your personal life. And I really meet a lot of people where I'm thinking the same is, why don't you quit? Oh, and then comes all the excuses. And I really think it's important, as you mentioned before, to have that. If you can check these boxes off, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, do something. It's not worth sacrificing your health, wealth, or relationships for being in a job.
No. And I think this is in all aspects of life, actually. If you have if you have a garden and you don't like to mow the lawn, right? Get rid of the lawn, right?
Yeah.
Instead of complaining. I have friends who complains about their lawn because now it's the moss is growing in there, and I'm like, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Or put some fake shit in there. You remove the stuff that is making your life miserable or negative.
Yeah.
That I really think that you should try to do that. I'm not saying that I'm a guru in doing it, but I try to think about it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I'm curious now to fast forward a little bit to Penneo.
Yeah.
Great company, one of the biggest competitors with DocuSign. I'm sure lots of people are familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
I know we used Penneo when we signed when we closed our seed round. So so we've had some great experiences with it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a NASDAQ-listed company, which for a lot of entrepreneurs that's like the promised land, like the ultimate endpoint and things like that. So it got very far on the journey company wise.
Mm.
How did that get started, and can you take us through that journey with that company?
Yeah, well, that company started. I'm going to take a small step back because the company started when I was in Just Works being angry.
Birthed out of pain.
Yes.
Yes.
And we actually tried to create a web shop that sold sunglasses and glasses. Mm-hmm. That was together with Nikolaj Højer as well, who I also said were doing Connery with. And Nikolaj bought glasses online and figured out that you could buy them for half price in Italy.
Okay.
And that was, all the sunglasses, the Gucci and stuff like that, that was just half price. And glasses with what's it called, prescription glasses.
Prescription, yeah.
They also have price. And I was like, well, why? And it's just because in Denmark, if you see, there's just glass shops everywhere.
Yeah.
Glasses shops everywhere, on every street corner. So me and Neula, we went to Italy and met with a guy called Giovanni. And Giovanni, he was selling glasses to Italian, glass shops, and had some direct connections with the factories that were doing all the glasses. There's 2 big ones who's doing everything.
Okay.
Luxottica and Zafilo, I think they're called. So they do a series, and then they try to sell to Hugo Boss, right? And they don't want it, and they sell it to Gucci instead, and then it's a Gucci glass. I think that's how it works. And then they have some other. So we were doing this web shop, and the idea there was, we could have free business trips to Italy and have red wines, and that was, and it didn't really work out. So we sold it to some Germans, because the guy from Italy just kept on pressing the prices. Whenever we got more sales, he was like, "Guys, it's gonna cost you more." Why? Normally it goes the other way. Don't care. I have to hire more people. So he's just pressing us out of the market, right?
Yeah.
So I got back to Just Works because, we had to make some money, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, we were selling to small companies and sending out a contract to some guy who has, a two-man shop, electrician guy or something, because he want to buy a website. We had to send it by mail. Or send it by an email, and then he would print it, and then he had to scan it, and then he had to send it back. And sometimes we got one page back, and that was the page where he signed it.
Yeah.
Not the full contract.
Not the full contract. And our lawyer was like, yeah, maybe it's good enough, but, And sometimes we didn't get it back. And when you called him, he was like, yeah, my cousin did my website instead, and, So I was so annoyed with those fucking contracts. And if we sent it with the mailman, right, it took just forever to get forward and get back, and sometimes it disappeared on the way.
And I can really imagine you weren't the only one feeling that pain.
No. I think a lot of people...
The way you describe it there, I was like, yeah, that sounds not great.
Contracts was just insane.
Yeah.
So, and then you had the paper as well, so you had to store the paper in, I still have, these racks from that company at home. And then something, NemID came at that point, which was a governmental issued ID for every people in Denmark. And you could use that to log into your netbank, and you could, log into the official systems and stuff like that. And they had an idea that you should be able to use it to log in on private websites as well. Mm-hmm. So I was looking into that because we had, just for curiosity. And at some point, they write that, this is a digital signature. I'm like, we need to use the digital signature for our contracts, right?
Eureka.
Because it's a digital signature and everybody has it.
Yeah.
So we called Nets and we're like, hey, we'd like to use that for, signing contracts. How do you do that? And they're like, we haven't it's not created yet. I'm like, but it says on your website, yeah, but it's not there yet. Okay, can we do it ourselves? Nope. Why? Because that's a Nets thing. Like, okay, that
Sure.
doesn't sound right. So we were digging into it, and I was talking to Anders, who was my partner, and I said, Anders, if we do something with NemID, and then you could log in, and then we could sign a contract with it, and do you think you can create something like that? And I was like, yep. Okay, so I think we should try to do it. I was like, shit. But we got a contract with Nets for logging in on our websites. That was basically because we couldn't get a contract to sign documents because that didn't exist. So that was at that point we started doing a system to sign our own contracts basically. And we called Nikolai Højer, because he made an exit on another company. We said, hey Nikolai, if you want to invest and buy our time for a couple of months here, you can get a fairly well percentage of the company. So he put in some money, bought our time to do the development of the first version of Penneo. Mm-hmm. And at that point it was called DocCloud.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of not DOC, but actually the doc.
Okay.
I've never been good at naming companies. So it was a DocCloud. And our payoff was getting your ducks in a row. And you get that
there
one,
you
right?
go. Yeah, okay. That's where it comes home. I was like, were you like in a field laying and looking up at clouds and you're laughing at the duck-shaped water?
You got that right.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
Yeah, getting your DOCS in a row. Yeah. Anyway, but
like
we
that.
but we made the first version, and then we started sending out contracts with it, and
Okay.
they just got signed like this. I don't know if it was legal and if it would go in court, but we believed that we could prove that you logged in, you used your NIM ID to sign it, and boom.
Yeah. Can't really do it by accident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, maybe there's a lot of people who wants to sign contracts, right? That was kind of the idea. But we couldn't push it through. So we encountered, or we were sitting in an office together with other startups, and two other people, Mikkel and Jan. They were doing another startup, some analysis thing online that I don't think that was going as they wanted. So we pitched them the idea that maybe they could jump into our startup as well, because Jan was a developer and Mikkel was kind of a graphic designer, and we couldn't do it ourselves. We needed more people. So they jumped in and basically rebuilt. We rebuilt everything because we couldn't prove that people actually signed the document, wasn't tied in, but the idea was there.
Mm-hmm.
And
when is this? What year?
That was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, me and Anna started, and Nikolai started this in 2011.
Okay.
But was finished somewhere in 2012, I think.
Okay.
And then they tipped in 2013. We didn't have any clients. We didn't really have we had a system where our clients were signing, right? And then they tipped in. And I think that there's a big lesson in that. It is that I see a lot of people who's two people trying to, encounter the world, and they have a lack of competencies, and they don't want to take more people in because, they have to get shares as well, and then they don't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the best thing we have done, was taking in Mikkel and Jan at that point, and shortly after Andre came, who was also, so we were basically 6 people, and Andre, he was a sales guy, like insane, great sales guy, and then we kind of had a team there, right? That was working on this, yeah. So that's how it started. By frustration about sending out contracts to small businesses that would never sign them, and with an idea of everybody needs to have stuff signed. So we were kind of trying to solve the smallest problem in the world, but one of the most annoying ones.
Wow.
What was the biggest struggle when you go back and remember? What was the biggest struggle that you encountered first?
Well, I think there's been a lot of struggles, but we kind of rebuilt the system, and at that point we were financing everything with our own funds, and we kind of ran out of money. I was doing just works on the side and doing doing Penneo as well, and at some point we needed funding. And we found a guy in Aarhus, a private guy, an angel, who wanted to invest.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, it wasn't that we didn't believe in our system, but it was kind of out of real moral and ethics that we kind of thought that we oversold him on what the problem or what the system could do.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the nerve to actually take his money, because it was like he earned his money himself, right?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Well, we also had a capital, venture thing that wanted to invest, and they wanted to invest around the same money at the same valuation. So we went with them instead.
Okay.
And
poor guy today, I suppose.
I think he would have liked to be in. So I've said sorry about it a couple of times, but well, that I really mean, burning other people's money. You have to have, you have to behave in a way when you get other people's money and they trust you to make their money grow. They are not saying that you're not allowed to fail, but I strongly believe that you have a really big responsibility for other people's money when they give it to you. You have to do your best, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And at this point, I think we all had a feeling that we kind of oversold the product.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really have a lot of clients. I think we had 18 clients. Maybe one was paying or something. But yeah, we got money in. And you asked about the biggest challenges. We got money in, and we wanted to sell this to accountants. Calling 100 accountants and saying, hey, we got a system, and this system, you don't have to pack these big piles of paper and send it in a big envelope to all the people who have to sign, and they have to send it to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy to do your annual report. Now you can just upload it into a system, and everybody can sign with NemID. Can we come and talk to you about that? And they would be, no. Like, but why? Nope, everything's running fine here. We don't have any issues with, we don't need that.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, huh?
Yeah. But at some point, we kind of got our own accountant. He liked the system, and he became our advocate for the for the whole product. And then we were ready to go out and sell it. At this point, we got money. He was advocating for it. It worked. All the workflow that they had to do in the order that you have to sign the documents, the chairman and who's going to be, the CEO, they have to sign in different orders. And then we had, accountant people, they work from January and then until, July or something. And you can't talk to them at that point. But then in the last half of the year, they are ready to talk about new stuff. So we were ready from August, and we just needed to sell this product from August and until December, right? And 2 weeks later, we got a call from the government. And like, hey, we understand that you're selling a system where you can sign annual reports. Yeah, that's true. Well, you can't do that. Like,
what? Oh,
why? Yeah, it's that's not legal. Like, but it says in the annual report legislation that you can sign the documents digitally. It actually states in, there. Yeah, but we have to take in consideration how to do it and what we approve and how it should be done, and you can't do that. Like, okay, but can we talk to you about that then? How can we, make a guide?
Can you
for
work
it?
with us here a little bit, please?
And she was like, Grete, she was she was really sweet, elderly lady. And she's like, yeah, we can make a project about that. We'll see if we can assemble a group and work with it. And okay, so can we get a meeting like next week or something? No, but we'll get back to you. Okay. How long time does stuff like that take in the government? It's like kind of
slow.
Yeah, I was gonna say once politics get involved, like oh
exactly.
my god.
And remember we had like, this was in August, and we had until December, right, to sell our product, or else we would be fucked. That was kind of where we put all the money.
Classic startup.
Yeah, that's not a lot of time at all.
So I was calling Grete every Friday.
There you go. Persistence.
Yes. Kind of like, hey, it's Jakob from Penneo. I was just tipping in, to hear where are we with the whole guidance and approval, and as you were like, yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe next week. Yeah, maybe next week. Okay. Can we get a meeting with you guys? Nope. We'll get back to you next Friday. Hi, it's
Then you started sending flowers and chocolates.
No. I think I did this for 4 Fridays or something, right? Yeah. And wrote her emails during the weeks as well. I was really annoying.
Yeah.
And nothing was just happening, right? So I decided to think, okay, maybe I need to get higher, right? In that organization within the government. So I looked, who's the CEO of that thing, or whatever you call it? I think it's the CEO. And I tried getting in touch with that guy. That was just impossible. You couldn't. I tried kind of everything. Wrote emails, and I just got from the secretary, we're not interested. You have to talk to Grete, right? But then there's some vice president as well, or vice CEO, or whatever it's called. His name was Victor. I thought, okay, maybe I should try to call him, because I saw a quote from him somewhere that he was interested in, using digitalization to make things more smooth for Danish companies.
Yeah.
So I tried writing him an email, and I got a reply from his secretary that, we couldn't meet with him. Then I called him, and this was before lunch. Got to his secretary and said, I'd like to, talk to him. And she said, no, you have to write an email. I said, I already tried, but you don't want to, there's no way in. And she said, well, then that's how it is. If you write another email. Like, okay. So I called after lunch, like at 1 o'clock or something. So I called, and I was like, hi, this is Jacob. I need to speak with Victor. And she was like, yeah, what's it about? It's private. And she got all quiet. I said, okay. And then I said, dude, it's Victor. I was handing with the phone, right? Shit. She actually put me through, right?
Okay. Write that down at home. That was the life hack right there. Right?
So
that was a good one.
I'm sitting there with Victor, right? And I'm like, hi, this is Jacob. I'm sorry about that. I actually cheated your secretary, because it's not really private, but just hear me out for like 20 seconds. We have created a system to, help. We're going to revolutionize the world with, all the accountants sign in. I saw this quote that you had about that you really want this, and we're struggling. We can't move forward because, and he was like, yeah, but you said it was private. Yeah, it's true. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. But I've tried to get, I've tried everything. He said, okay, well, you need to write me an email. Okay, I already tried that. Yeah, but my email is, and then I got his private email.
Mm. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then he hung up, right? Okay, shit. So I wrote him an email, right? Hey, I'm sorry about blah, 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 blah. And I think the day after, we got a call, and it was from Grete. She's like, hey, it's Grete from Erhvervsstyrelsen. I understand that you've been talking to Victor, and we have assembled a group, and we'd like to invite you for a meeting.
Okay.
So we got the meeting, right?
Yeah.
And at that meeting, we came in, and we were like, okay, so we really need to persuade these people about we have to do something. And I remember they came 4 people. One of them was a guy who was just staring down the table all the time, kind of couldn't really read him. He was kind of like just sitting like this in the table, and then at some point he just looked up and he was like, yeah, but there's EU legislation, and then he kind of had a million points in the EU legislation why this couldn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the way that I work, I dig deep into things. Like when I'm interested into anything, then I dig really, really deep. And my person type is kind of like I try to look 10 steps ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was prepared for every legislation, right?
Yeah.
And so I could battle him on everything that he, all the things.
Okay, you came in prepared and you had every point, and you were like,
yes,
you say this, but this is how we solve it.
Yes, and there's a legislation called the IEDAS legislation that says something about digital signatures, and there's a directive that says that you're not allowed to discriminate a signature just because it's digital. And
Okay.
you already wrote it in the legislation in Denmark that you're allowed to do it. And
were you able to prove all the points wrong in that meeting?
yeah, more or less, right?
Nice.
And then they went back, and I think a week later they made a full guide for how to sign annual reports in Denmark, and they published it on the website, and they also published which suppliers that they had approved that was doing it the right way, which was
only Penneo.
Yes. Because we were the only one who built it as IEDAS, as the legislation, which was
you did it by the legislation, and in the meeting you taught them how to do it by the legislation.
Exactly.
So you guys essentially got to write the book on it.
Yes.
Which anybody else working on it, they couldn't do.
Yeah, but some of the other people working on it, they made up their own stuff. Like me and Anders did in DocCloud, right? That was just our own way of doing it.
Yeah.
But at this point, we created that as the legislation said, right? So we were the only one approved, and this was in, I don't know, October or something. So from October and then to the middle of December, we could actually start selling the product. And from there on, it took off. And sorry for those clients, but we actually did sell the product in the meantime. So if
yeah, it's the entrepreneurship hustle mentality. You gotta walk the line sometimes.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
We were like this. They are paying us a pay as you go at that point. That was our business idea. You paid for every signature. So we compared it to stamps, right?
Yeah.
So when you send something with the stamps, that would cost you 90 krona or something because you had to send all of these, and with us it only cost you 20. So we didn't take their money, but we did sell them the product, and they were only gonna use it in the start of next year. So that was kind of the ethics and moral in it.
Yeah.
We sell you something that we hope will get approved.
Yeah.
But some people didn't want to buy it. They called, the comments. Is this allowed? And they would call us every time and say, you can't go around selling a product before we approved it, right? But they did approve it, and that was cool.
So that was kind of approved that you can sell it before it's approved, but you kind of have to have an ethical mindset about that it will get approved in some way.
I think I've built a lot of my stuff on high moral and ethics, and trying to behave and do the right things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people need to think about that when they're building stuff, because it's easy to build a company where you cheat people.
Yeah.
I think every person who has some kind of IQ can build a company where you cheat people online. I don't think it's fun to look yourself in the mirror every morning if you do that.
No, you want to make the world a better place.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. If we jump ahead a little bit, then for me at least, like a really exciting part of this story is actually getting on the stock market. And I'm just super curious, what was that experience like? What were sort of the bullet points of like? There must have been some kind of expectation and reality gap or something like that, I would imagine. Yeah. Because from the outside, it always looks like, oh, now we're got to ring the bell. We're on the stock exchange. All of our shares are liquid. Now we're like, the bank account just goes up like that. And in some way, that's like the outside view on going on the stock market. And then the reality have some similarities, I'm sure, but also some extra challenges or differences. How was that for you?
Well, I think I'm just gonna take it.
No problem.
I think I left Penneo in 2017.
Yeah.
So I wasn't active in 2020 when the company IPO'd, but I was still close to the people who was in there, my old co-founders and all of that. When they started talking about doing the IPO, we actually made a deal where I handed off, together with Anders and Nikolai, we handed off some of our shares. I need to check if I'm allowed to say that,
No
just so you can cut it out if it is.
Yep.
But I handed off 10% of my shares as an exit bonus in our joint company to the people who are still in the company, who was active. So they got a 10% exit bonus from me, and 10% from Anders, and 10% from Nikolai, and as a good faith of they were actually struggling in there, and I think that you have to acknowledge the people who is actually building stuff even if you left. But they started talking about IPOing the company, And at first you're really excited about it. And then I think you get scared, like really scared, because what does that really mean? And you're not really part of everything. And you have these advisors and there's coming in investors and pre-IPOs. And I think all the way through a process like that, you feel like, am I getting ripped off? Right? Is someone gonna fuck me over here?
Yeah.
Because you don't really understand the process. You try to, hire advisors to help you, but a lot of the advisors will only answer what you're asking, actually, right? So you kind of need an adult at this point again, right? To come in and say, this is how it works. This is how it goes.
Yeah, they're not like your advisors. They're not like proactively trying to steer you in the right direction. They're just like, we're here if you have questions, but...
Yeah, basically, because you ask a question about tax, right? And they're going to reply about that. And then you can ask them a question about, can you read through the documents? And they'll be like, yeah, maybe this could be better on this. But in the end, they're just human like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So the process is really scary going there. And then when we were IPOing and building it up right before 2020. And we were supposed to IPO in the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
And we were closing all the documents in February. And I don't know if you remember what happened in March 2020 when COVID kind of just shut down Denmark or the entire world. So we were sitting kind of with a company where we couldn't really stop the process. We had to IPO or else it would be fucked over, right? In a process where we had COVID and everything is closed down. that was scary. Yeah. And it took a lot of mental energy to be in that process. Then when it IPO'd and everything went up, that was insane. Just seeing, the photo, from NASDAQ with the logo and being part of the process and the party afterwards, and we went out, had some beers, and that was really, really insane. But I think the idea of it happening is more crazy than when it actually happens.
Yeah.
Because the next day, I slept in Copenhagen, and me and Anders was going back to Northern Jutland. He was driving, and he had to pick me up a bit later that day. So I camped in what's it called, the train station, the main station in Copenhagen, because I was kicked out of the hotel. When the clock was 12, right? Yeah. And you couldn't get a longer sleepover because of COVID, so they had to, clean and disinfect everything. That took a longer time. So I thought, okay, well, Anders is going to pick me up at 3 because he was meeting his parents or something. So I better sit at the train station. But when I got into the train station, they blocked all the places where you could sit.
Oh.
Okay. So I was sitting in the train station the day after the IPO. And I could look at my, bank. I could log in and I could see my shares. I was at a lockup, so I couldn't sell them, but I could see them, and they would, they already went up a lot.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in that train station on the floor because you couldn't sit anywhere else. Yeah. And I was sitting with a bag, kind of a plastic bag, because I can't remember what I had in that bag, but I had that. And right outside of McDonald's. So there's a McDonald's there. I'm sitting and I was eating some, what's it called? I was eating a cheeseburger, and I had a cup of coffee. So my coffee was standing there. I took off the lid on the coffee, and I was sitting there eating my cheeseburger. And then some guy walks by, puts money in the lid of the fucking cup.
No way.
And I was sitting there like, okay, I know I was drunk last night, right? And I do know that I'm sitting on the floor, and I do know I probably look like shit. But he should know that was so insane, right?
Yeah.
Sitting there. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That was two worlds just meeting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I basically went from having a startup pay for a lot of years, right? And
Which is very low.
Which is very, very low, right? I was at that point driving a car from 1996, an old Polo, and I was sitting in that train station, and I probably looked like shit. But I could look at the bank account, and then some guy comes and give me like 20,
this guy needs some help.
20 krona, right? Yeah.
Oh,
But,
wow.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah.
What was the biggest learning in that journey?
I think the biggest journey for me was that you have to really study hard and understand things yourself, because you can't rely on having advisors around you. And for once, in Denmark, we have something called lagerskat, which is basically taxation on unrealized funds.
A very stupid rule here in Denmark.
It's an insane rule. So the whole idea with this is that you're going to be taxed on what the government thinks that you have earned in this year. And I got shares in 2020 in the summer. And at that point, we started at a share price of 11, I think, when it went on the stock market. And in New Year's Eve, later that year, I think it was at 76.
Okay.
But tax is going to tax you on, from 11 to 76.
Yeah.
So they're going to say you earned some money this year.
Yeah. 7x the share price.
Exactly. And the money that you earned there, you're going to pay 22% of. But my problem was that I was...
And of course, the money, it's not in your account, it's just in shares.
It's just in shares.
Yeah.
And my problem was that I was on a lockup, so I couldn't sell the shares. But you're still going to have to pay the money in cash. And you have to pay them in November the next year. So when it just went up in the end of the year, I was almost crying, because it was just... I could just see that tax bill just building up, right? And so it went up, and then it went down. But you're not going to get the money back from the government.
No.
But you still have to pay them. Which means that I think I paid, I sold shares for around 8 million, and then I paid 8 million.
Oh.
So I kind of got zero out of that sale, right? Which means that we kind of went from, I think that when we were at the highest, I had, I don't know how much that is in dollars, maybe you can calculate it. We had 165 million in shares in the account. I could log into my bank account and I could see them. I couldn't touch them because I wasn't allowed to sell them.
Yeah.
But when we could start selling them, I think they were down at 20 or something. Yeah. And then we had to sell, for 8 million.
Yeah.
To get tax. And because everybody had to sell to pay tax, then the stock kind of just plumped, which meant that it just went down and down and down, right?
Oh.
So
yeah, because some people or some investors, they maybe don't know that the founders actually have to sell their shares to actually pay the tax.
Yes.
So it can look for unenlightened people that, if the founders are selling out, then maybe the company, maybe something's wrong with it.
Exactly. Exactly. So everybody gets scared, right?
Okay, that's crazy.
And if you don't pay the money, then the tax authority is going to bankrupt your company.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you kind of have to figure out a way to either loan or pay or somehow get the money, right?
Basically, no real good solution to that. Thus the stupid rule.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Rule. So me and my wife, we went from we need a summer house and we need a boat and we need maybe we could have another boat. No,
Yeah.
no. But we went from these dreams to kind of okay.
Yeah. To being slapped by reality.
Yeah. So I think the whole process was, to take it in short, it was scary when we were, trying to get there, because we thought someone is going to fuck us or rip us off, because everybody's smarter than we are, right? Trying to figure all of that out. Then COVID came, which kind of made us, what's going to happen with the company and what's going to happen with the whole IPO. We were doing digital signatures, so that was a good time for COVID, right? Because people didn't meet, so they were forced into doing that. And then afterwards, tax kind of came, which the next 2 years was just, really pushing you down. Would I recommend other to IPO in Denmark? Nope, not as long as you have these rules.
Yeah,
but you can really see those red flags and why you would recommend that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
and that was like a nice bullet point timeline, bringing us up to speed on Penneo. But of course, today now you're working on Estaldo, which you got the great T-shirt representing today, and the hoodie as well. Tell us a little bit about Estaldo and how what is that company? What do you guys do?
Yeah,
and where are you today?
Well, in 2017, when I left Penneo, we had tried to work with the banks to approve when you buy a house, the buying contracts, that would be approved by the banks as legal, or it was legal, but they need to approve it as well. And in October 2017, it was made possible to actually sign the buying contract and take up a loan based on the contract digitally. So at that point, I really didn't understand why the realtors in Denmark didn't want to sign digitally. Because I'm just going to rewind just a bit. So we were working on the realtors to sign documents digitally. They didn't want to do it. I didn't understand why. But I think, and I don't know if this was the background for it, but my mind came to the conclusion that why they didn't want to sign was that if you can sign documents digitally, then you don't need a realtor to be there physically.
Yeah.
Because, why would you have like 400 offices all over Denmark if the only thing they do is to, help you sign the documents? I know they do showings and stuff as well, but basically it's signing documents. And we tried to get that approved through the union of realtors in Denmark, and they weren't interested. I think 15 minutes meeting, and then they were like, yeah, that's it, you can leave. But then it got approved in the end of 2017 when I had left Penneo. And I was walking around with this idea, and I even made a pitch deck about it, that maybe you could create a platform where you could sell your own home. Just log in, hire a photographer, and get the templates to sign the documents, and then you could hand everything yourself. But then I met Anne, which is a co-founder in Estaldo, and she's a realtor, and we were talking about, she had this idea that she just came home from Spain, and she would like to have stayed there to just sell houses from Spain. That would have been nice. And I had this platform idea, and then combining an idea with a platform to sell your own home with a realtor who could assist you all the way. That would kind of make it safe and more, valid, that you would have someone who was actually doing the documents for you, but then all the things you could do yourself, you could do that.
Yeah.
So the idea for Estaldo was basically to say, we want to create a digital platform with agents, realtors who can assist you to sell your home. And then kind of, see if we could take over the market that way. And
the benefit was it's less expensive than having the realtor there. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's you can look at it from two perspectives. You can look at it from the client, because we can make it much cheaper to sell your home. I think we're 7 times cheaper than the local realtor in average. We started out by having a price of 12,500 to sell your home. It's a bit higher now because inflation and stuff like that. But so looking at it from the client, you could do it much cheaper. looking at it from a company perspective, you can do it a lot more effective. So right now we have around 1% of all houses for sale in Denmark with us, but we only have 3 agents and 3 people handling paperwork. So it's kind of like 6 people who is doing 1% of the market, and it scales. So and it can scale to other countries as well. So the main thing to create it is the digital ID, because if you can sign the documents and if you can identify yourself online, then the platform works everywhere. So that was basically the idea. And I think that selling a house is not really that complicated. It's you have to have someone who can do the right documents, of course. But showing your house is just opening the door, right, and let people walk around. The agents doesn't do anything else but that. Hi, this is a house.
Yeah, that's a super smart idea.
Do you want to buy it?
Yeah,
that's what they do, right? So,
and this was the idea that you got you were on the Lions Den pitching this idea, is that correct?
Yeah, we ended
up
up
the Danish Shark Tank.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
were up in front of the Lions and
exactly
pitching your on Danish national TV and everything like that.
Yeah, we ended.
How
up
was
there.
that experience, and would you recommend it? Because when non-entrepreneurs, especially when they're like, they're always, their first advice for fundraising is, oh, you should go on that show where you
Well, yeah, we ended up there. We had taken in money at that point, but we needed more money. And then a crazy idea was that they were looking for people to participate in the Dragon's Den. And I was like, okay, so we have a product. It's a tech product. They don't have a lot of those in there, so maybe they don't want us. But we have a product that is for everybody who owns a home in Denmark. So it's broad, right? Mm-hmm. And so that must be for the viewers. And it would, and you can't say that, but it would give a lot of PR, right, to get in there. And if we could get some money from it as well, then our round would kind of be closed, because then our current investors could put in some money and we could get a new investor in there. The problem is with those TV shows is that the valuation is always screwed up.
Yeah.
And we had current investors who had a valuation, and so we kind of needed to be, close to that. So we discussed it a lot of, before we applied. And then we applied, and then they got back to us and said, hey, guys, we'd like to have you come in here. And at that, getting we would like you to come in and participate. That kind of like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is like, shit, maybe we're going to look like idiots.
Yeah.
Because having, a TV show and they tape you for a long time, maybe they can just cut you, like they want. But me and Anne, we have 2 more co-founders, but they only speak English, and so they weren't allowed, or they wanted people in there who spoke Danish, right?
Sure.
So me and Anne, we went in there together and prepared. We asked our team members to see all, they got 1 show each, needed to write down which kind of questions they were asking. Then we took all the questions that we might be asked and tried to, prepare on that. And then we went to Copenhagen. And the TV show that's the stage, right? It's plastic. Everything's plastic in there.
Yeah.
The windows, it's a setup, right? It's a set. And there's cameras everywhere when you're standing in there. And you're standing in the back room, right? And then you have to walk up this stair that is also fake. And then they have the real stair when you come out on where the TV shows is. And I remember just before we walked up the stairs, I asked the production girl who was standing there. So I was like, so do you sometimes have people who just black out or just can't do anything in there? And she said, yeah, we also sometimes have people who faint. and then Anne is standing like, what? And the next thing, yeah, it's your turn. 3, 2, 1, walk.
Okay.
So Anne is walking in front, right? And I'm like, shit, I fucked this up, right? Because she got scared, I think. I'm not sure, but I think she got scared. So she's walking up there. And then when we come down the stairs, there's this cross that you have to stand on.
Yeah.
And Anne couldn't find it. So she's kind of, I was like, what the fuck is she doing?
Oh, like the mark on the
Yeah,
side.
yeah,
the camera's aimed.
Yeah,
sure,
exactly.
of course,
But we end up standing there, right? And then you have to start your pitch with how much that you're looking for.
Yeah.
You have to present yourself and then say that we're looking for blah blah for blah blah. And we forgot about that. Yeah, and it didn't really appear to us that we forgot about asking for the money, right? But then one of the lions or dragons or whatever we call them in there. So he's like, thank you for that. And what are you looking for? What do you mean? Are you looking for some money or just fuck? So just the, we were so nervous, right, being there because it's a performance, right?
Yeah.
And then you just fuck it up from step one, and I was just looking at, we are gonna look like idiots in this TV show. It's gonna be insane.
Yeah.
But we had 45 minutes. They told us you have 45 minutes.
Did you do a deal?
We were there, yeah, but we were there for three hours.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 hours, I think we stood there. At some point, the production guy was yelling, "If you guys want to bid on this company, you have to do it now because the lunch is is coming and people are hungry." And that was at 11, and we went out at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yeah, they ask a lot of questions, and they can write stuff down, and you can't.
Sure.
And they ask the same questions again in different ways. Numbers. How many people do you have visiting your website? How much do you convert? How much do you? Then they ask it again, so you can't really, can't fake it till you make it, because then they're gonna trick you, right? But yeah, we ended up having. They were bidding at us, almost all of them, in constellations as well. But we got a bid from one of the dragons, who has built platforms or being part of building markets platforms several times, and he came with a bid that we took out of there. And when we were in the studio,
that's a cool story.
When we were in the studio, they told us, actually, because we were starting to stand there talking about it. I was like, it was a bit from what our current investors had invested for. So I knew that we were going to have to fight with them, because it would basically be a down round, right? But the production guy was like, guys, this is going to be the largest investment that has been made. And, we were in the 7 seasons. So in all seasons, there's going to be the largest single investment that's going to be made. Just so you know that when you take your decision, right? and we're like, okay, well, we're gonna jump for it, right?
Yeah.
So we took it, and it ended up being the second largest investment, because the same guy actually took another company where he just nudged up at top. So he had the largest and the second largest, but yeah, that was an experience. It was really fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your biggest learning from that?
I think my biggest learning from going in there is that when you prepare for something, if it's really important, you have to dig really deep.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with trying, to just coming unprepared, because most of the things I'm so deep in that I can, challenge or discuss or whatever. Like when we were doing Penneo, I was so deep into the legislation that I think that I could challenge every lawyer or, about everything.
Yeah.
But when you go to stuff like this, then you really have to be prepared.
Got to do your homework.
Yeah. And then I think I learned as well that the people that we see in these TV shows that looks like idiots, it's they cut them like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that, and I don't think it's fair always. I know it's entertaining, but they could have made us look like idiots.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't find the cross that wasn't in there.
I think that's such a good point. It's such a good point because Mikkel and I, we've also been on a pitching TV show as well called Meet the Drapers before.
Yeah.
And in reality, when you have it, when the judges or whatever you want to call it, they'll ask you a question and you just come with a response like this. But then they cut it in the show to us that of us like looking off into the distance, really that we can't think of an answer, and you're like, that's not what happened. Exactly. And I think people also, they think, when you need to get an investment for your company, you just say, I would like $100,000 for 10%. How about 15? Deal. And it's like it's like a 2-minute process. But no, you're standing there for 3 hours having a very real investor meeting, like you would in real life, essentially.
But then afterwards, the deal is not done in there, because afterwards, then they do the due diligence, right?
Yeah, of course.
Where they dig really deep. Right.
Yeah.
So you can't just go in there and then just fake it, because they are gonna dig into the numbers and see if you're actually.
Yeah, they gotta verify everything.
Of course. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of company who thinks that they got an investment in there and then they don't.
Yeah.
Afterwards, and then they don't go on the TV show.
What is one thing that you would want people to know about Estaldo today? Like people thinking about selling their house or buying a house, and now if 1% of the market is on your platform for the whole Danish market, why should they use Estaldo? What would you like the world to know about that?
Well, I think that people overcomplicate selling a home, because the market is such regulated. So I think I would rather say one thing that people should know about the traditional realtor is that the only thing they do is that they send out a photographer and then they put up a listing on, the housing portals. We do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And after that, they wait. And at some point, someone is going to click the button and say they would like to see the home. And then they go out and open the door, and maybe people buy it. That's how the housing market works. And they can get the exact same thing with us if they want to open the door themselves. And I think that when the traditional realtor says that they have a buying list and they are selling all the homes in this area, and they already have 200 buyers. They can come with them tomorrow. We hear every day that people sign a deal based on that they have 20 couples that can come and see the home. No one comes. So I think that selling a home is kind of like selling a car. You can post it online. Someone is going to find it. They're going to go out and see it. They're going to buy it. Mm-hmm. It's not more complicated than that. So I think that's the most important thing for people to know.
Okay, that's great. That is such a cool idea. I'm really excited to follow that journey. Jakob, we have a tradition on this podcast where we have this canister here with sort of some non-business related thought-provoking questions. Mm-hmm. I would like to draw one of those for you and just see where it takes us if you're up for it.
I'm up for it.
All right. Let's see what we get today. So if you just reflecting on everything, and this can be business, personal, all over the place, is there anything that you feel like you're taking for granted these days?
Yeah, I sometimes feel... No, I know. I don't feel... Sometimes I take my family for granted. Yeah. I think, the people who's closest to you is the people that you sometimes forget to nurture and care about. And I think that I sometimes take those people for granted.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think, if you think you have a stable stable relationship, and you have, the stable home and all of that, then you put your energy into places where things is not stable.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that if you don't nurture everything, then stuff can become unstable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a trait that we entrepreneurs have? Because I know so many who is just, they love solving problems. And if there's no problem, well, then it doesn't need energy.
Yeah.
And then you go on where there is problems. And then suddenly you see like, oh, but why is there a problem now? There's not been a problem here for like a long time.
Yeah.
And that's actually because you haven't put the energy into it.
I'm not sure it's only entrepreneurs. I think a lot of guys have this issue.
Yeah.
It's always I have friends who's like, and then one day she just got up and we got a divorce and she left and I didn't even see it coming and I'm like, okay, everybody saw that coming, right?
Yeah.
Everybody saw that coming. Why didn't you see it coming? But I think some guys have it like that. It's kind of, we're content. We take things for granted. She's gonna be there forever, stuff like that. So, and when I'm saying it like this, it's because I'm trying to be aware that it also needs time and nurture and those things.
I was going to say you seem quite conscious about it actually in the way that you answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to reverse also on that one is, Jakob, you've been on a hell of a journey with multiple startups, not only professionally, but also personally, having 2 kids and seeing them grow up in the midst of building companies. What are you the most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of, I come from a single mom, and, she took care of me herself. She didn't need, maybe she had boyfriends, I don't know. I never had these dads coming in and leaving and stuff. It was only her and me. And what I think I'm most proud of is, to actually being able to move from, what's it called? It's not class. It's move from being someone who don't
going up in economic level, or
kind of going up in we didn't have a car. She didn't have her own home. I had to work to get my stuff, and I think that background actually taught me a lot about not taking stuff for granted.
Yeah.
And going from there to actually having our own home and having a car and having a family and making it work, I think that's what I'm most proud of for my life. If you look at what I'm most proud of for building stuff, I think I'm most proud of that I haven't gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
I haven't cheated people. I tend to, try to really nurture and take care of the people I'm working with. I don't look at people as employees. I look as people as equals.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be what I'm most proud about in professional life. It is. I don't think I have a lot of enemies. Or a lot of people have a grudge. I would more say like that.
Yeah.
Of course, there are some people who have a grudge. You can't, run your own business for a lot of years without, having some clashes, right?
No.
But I think that most people, and even people who I've let go from the companies, would look at me and say, yeah, okay, I'm sad that I was let go, but I do understand it, and I don't hate him as a person.
Didn't take it personally.
Yeah, I would hope. I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe someone is listening and would say, he's an asshole. But I'm most proud about that. I think that I've behaved well in every aspect of what I've done. Yeah.
That is quite an accomplishment, and also I think it's also a lot of what you say is also quite inspiring as well, as a way that you can go forward in business, in life. go through IPO processes, fundraising, scaling companies, exiting companies, and you can do that and also be a good person. You can do that and also be a good dad. You can be a good husband. You can have a good life. All of these things. It's an inspiring story. Thank you for sharing all of that with us today. I know for me, a lot of that of what I've just said, it has been a lot of my takeaways from that. From when you kind of like hit me in the chest with the first answer, like, so who are you? I'm a father. You know, this is something I prioritize. That was just really, really great. I loved your story of persistence with Greta and Victor, and that whole story of getting the political part of Penneo approved, and how you just, the only way through for you guys. If you hadn't done that, the company would have been finished, I would imagine. So it was like calling every week when that doesn't work, find a way to the top. When that doesn't work, fake it till you make it, say sorry about that, and then like get it through anyways. That's just doing what it takes. And I think that's what some people just don't understand about playing this game called entrepreneurship. Yeah. So those are some takeaways that I got from today.
Yeah, and the same for me is now that you just touched down upon it with the coming from a single mom home, that you actually dropped out. And for many people looking from the outside, you can say, oh, okay, now you're kind of staying in the same lane, but you've just stayed persistent and you've always been optimizing. And seeing the systems in McDonald's, as I heard it, it was kind of that building a system where you can take people from the street. Yeah, and
that was cool.
I get a sense as well, you've always been many co-founders, so you've also embraced more people and not hold on to the share of the pie, but really tried to nurture collaboration. And then you touched upon also how important it is to have a strong gut feeling, which is something that me and Travis talked many times about, because we also in our journey neglected it and really saw the pain of it. And then also knowing your stuff really well, how much that helps you when you have to be persistent and overcome. And then you said the thing about really prepare for the questions. I think that's something that people listening right now, they should write down, is if you're doing investor meetings, prepare for those questions, because they are going to come. And when you answer questions with confidence and they can see that you don't budge, they know that you know your homework. Yep. And that builds that trust, and that's something that we also talked about a lot. It really comes down when you're talking to investors to one thing: trust. Yeah. Do they believe you can do it? And if you can answer most of their questions with confidence, and even if they have questions and you can say, you know what, that exact thing, I don't know that. I got to go back and then I'll come with the answer. That builds trust, because they know that you cannot know everything. And yeah, then you said one thing that I really also just take with me is like, don't overcomplicate things. Just get going. Yeah. It's been a really interesting talk.
I think, I don't know about, have we gone over time or?
No, you just keep going.
Oh, I've scheduled, I don't have anything else. But I think one thing that people should also look into is I try to study personality types. And, you know, understanding different personalities, because having a knowledge about how people respond and why they act like they act helps you give another perspective, you know, and helps you see, you know, world from other people's perspective. And I work with the Enneagram. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're familiar.
And one of my friends is master Enneagram, kind of like, you know, also from the US, and he took it in the US. He's in Denmark, psychologist, and having the ability to, you know, sometimes when people really annoy you, to dig into and try to figure out why they're doing like they're doing. I think that is the best advice I can give to people who want to build something, because the moment you get a team, then you kind of get, okay, that's that personality type, and, you know, they are going to respond like this to this. And maybe we don't need them at the team at this moment, because, you know, they will be better when we're bigger. Or, and I still fail in, you know, hiring, you know, wrong people for the team. But then having the knowledge of communicating with people. So, you know, some people, you know, they just want facts. And some people they don't want facts. They just they need something else. And being able to do that's something I think every people who want to build a business should study to understand why. Because or else I don't think that you can move a team anywhere.
No,
because then you're gonna fuck it up, or you're gonna hire people that you only like, and you can't do that because then you need different skill sets.
That's so true. Communication really is key, both in hiring but also scaling.
Yeah, that was a great nugget of information to end on there today. Jakob, thank you for joining us. It's been great having you on today. I know Mikkel and I, we've learned a lot on this, and I'm sure everybody listening has as well. And best of luck to you with everything you're working on today. And next time I'm selling my house, I know where to go.
Just come. We are ready.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jakob.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Growing Forward podcast with your hosts, Nick and Trav.